Heavenly Parent created the universe. Adam and Eve were born, but then they fell. So that foundation was lost. He tried again. But we can only find any record of Jesus, and we don't even know where God's daughter was at the time. What was established at the time of Jesus, however, was that Jesus, as a man, raised to the stature of a divine spirit, of a mature human being, of a fully accomplished Son of God, and opened the doorway for us to be able to relate to God as our Heavenly Father. God is both masculine and feminine in origin, but Jesus as a son, as a man, we related to God in the relationship of parent, of child and father. But there was no Eve to be found, or if there were, we certainly did not do a very good job of protecting her, finding her, marrying her, and building the first family. So a second coming had to come. And Father is the second coming, representing that role and inheriting the foundation of Jesus, building on the foundation of Jesus, and completing the work that's necessary for God's only begotten Son to do, completing that which Jesus began and which Adam failed. Mother, on the other hand, was not a second or third version of that. She was the first of her kind. There was no foundation for her to inherit. She had to be born as God's daughter, as Jesus was, born as God's son. Mother herself came to know the truth of God, came to know the truth of her own role and position naturally, like Jesus came to know it. Father had to inherit from Jesus and take on the mantle and build from there. So the question is there any difference between the mission of the first and second coming? Well, yes, there is. There is a difference. And both father and mother established the conditions that they individually needed to set, and also as a couple, in order to be victorious as true parents. However, some of the understandings have been unclear to us. And when we consider the issue that has been heavily debated about mother's stature, I think there's one simple question for me that makes the whole conversation very simple. Where does true mother's authority come from? Many of us were taught, many of us came to believe that it was Father who raised, who guided, and therefore gave the authority to mother, perhaps in some inherited sense or some restorational sense. But in her life story, she testifies differently. She testifies that she knew God from a young age. She was raised to know that God was her heavenly parent. And she even knew her own mission and her own stature before even her mother was entirely clear about who she was. And she knew who true Father was and what his responsibility was, and that it was his responsibility to recognize her and marry her. So when you look at this chart, does it seem strange to you that God would use a second coming to raise a first coming? Right. It's like this. She's not a restorational figure. Father receives his authority from Heavenly Parent. Mother receives her authority from Heavenly Parent. And because they both establish the position of Father and Mother, then we open the gateway for Heavenly Parent not just to be Heavenly Father or Heavenly Mother, but Heavenly Parent. And in reality, if we're really to compare the role between the second coming and the first coming, it would be more like this. If anything, it's necessary that we better understand the important role of Jesus in our faith. For the role that he played was to pass on the mantle and inherit to the second coming, so that Father could pick up where Jesus left off and complete everything as Jesus promised he would.